Here we go then, the final of the first of 4 Super Series events here in Barnsley this week, and it is a man who has been producing some spellbinding stuff in Dimitri van den Bergh. He's averaged over 104 in 5 of his 6 matches in getting here, and he's taking on Adrian Lewis, who is looking to return to the winner's circle for the first time in 2.5 years. In fact, it's his first final in that time.
25.
It'll be a difficult task, but Lewis has been threatening to do this kind of thing with some good performances over the course of 2021.
Bullseye. Dimitri's won the ball.
Has the second coming of the 2-time world champion arrived, or will the dream maker put him to bed in this final? Paul Nicholson, alongside me, Chris Murphy, to talk you through it.
I'm really looking forward to this joust, because that's exactly what this is. 2 players of extreme quality.
57.
But if you think this is going to be just an all-out darts match, think again. This is a battle of the mental side of the game as well. And we've already had one attempt from a
96.
player to win a mental battle, and it was won by Dimitri because Adrian tried to engage eye contact with the last fist bump, and Dimitri was having none of it.
Well, in the quarters and the semis, victories against Rob Cross and his
60.
Belgian buddy Kim Huybrechts. Van den Bergh has just looked a picture of focus, a picture of concentration. He's been in the zone, and it's shown in the darts that he's delivered.
100.
There are certain days, Murph, when you wake up and you think, I want this today. And you think that a lot. But there are other days you think, I want this, but I feel I can get this. And Van den Bergh is a somewhat strange dart player when you look at his entire career. He couldn't play on the floor for years, and in 2021 he seems to have figured it out.
There is a caveat to that, of course, the fact that he won a dozen titles on the development tour, which are played in similar settings. But yeah, in terms of senior professional darts, Van den Bergh really struggled and came alive on the stage.
That's what made it so mystifying, because we've seen him
85.
play on the development tour on the floor and been so successful, and it's taken him a good 4 or 5 seasons at senior level to figure it out here. He did, of course, lose in his first final, losing to Glenn Durrant, but he has won this year.
Yeah, picked up a title when we had the floor events over in Germany earlier this year.
99.
Adrian Lewis back in a final, as I said, for the first time in 2.5 years. That was against Raymond van Barneveld in Wigan in the early part of 2019.
130.
Think about it, Paul. Dan Dawson, we have to tip our hat to, came up with a stat that since then, the man that he beat has retired, come back from retirement and won a title himself.
Tops. From the angle.
80.
Oh, not enough air for that one. And Lewis can break in 6 visits here. Tops for him.
Game shot.
Had some early problems in the semi with tops. Figured it out and was deadly by the end of that match. But he's figured it out at the start here. And a break in 17 darts. I didn't see that coming.
Just keep an eye on Dimitri van den Bergh in this match. Did not look up, still hasn't looked
140.
up from Adrian, the start of Adrian's last visit. Van den Bergh's head was down, he was looking at his darts. Not interested in what Adrian's doing, only focused on himself.
57.
And you suggested, Paul, at the beginning of the match, having seen the exchange for the fist pump, that
39.
perhaps Adrian wants Dimitri to get involved in what he's doing.
Of course he does. It's the whole being tutored by Phil Taylor thing. Phil wanted to boss the match on the board and mentally.
100.
That's the one thing that in the early part of my career I found really challenging when playing these top players. They try to make you play their match. Well,
85.
Adrian is always going to try and hunt. But Dimitri wants to play on his own terms. He wants his own little bubble. And that's why he's staring at the carpet so much. And I admire that. Playing Adrian Lewis is not easy. Because A, he's really good. Secondly,
82.
he's wily.
A classic case of one man playing the man, the other playing the board. Trying not to get involved. Still, you can see his head down there over the shoulder of Adrian Lewis, just looking away. But it's Lewis that seems to be stealing a march at the start of this match.
Yeah, similar position
140.
to the semi-final where he got the jump, but then was reeled in. But then as soon as that happened, he turns on the boosters and figures it out. Well, it will be a 2-0 lead, potentially, if Bergh does not find 4 18s and bull.
Will it be a boost for the Belgian? It's a difficult dart to get past, and he's unable to locate the treble. So Lewis
61.
has 3 at tops to double his lead early in this decider.
Game shot.
Really well done. And if he starts hitting tops like that and keeps leaving it after not many visits, Bergh is going to have to find what he's done all day long, which is magnificent stuff. Their world rankings are not going to change as a result of this final,
80.
but their Roll of Honour is going to change. It would be a 27th PDC title for Adrian Lewis. Bergh will stay at number 5, even if he wins, but he will edge closer to the number 4 spot, which is currently occupied by James Wade. He would only be 9,000 behind, and he could potentially, by the end of the week, get himself to that number 4 spot.
96.
What it would be for Adrian Lewis is a bit of a slide stopper, isn't it? Just picking up £10,000 to consolidate where he is and end this downward trend, ready to lift off again.
Well, here's a point I really want to make. I think it's extremely important for the career of Adrian Lewis. The race for the match play of 2022 has been going on for a while. The race for the Grand Prix for next year is starting today.
71.
He wasn't in the match play. He wasn't in the Grand Prix. He wants to be in them next year, and that race starts now.
100.
Oh, that could be an important treble as well. Leaving himself an easier finish than the one that Bergh has left. Dimitri needs a couple of trebles. Adrian may only need 1.
And Dimitri was impeccable on the 57 with the previous visit, but not so there. This is doable. Double 18. Oh, that's stupendous from Adrian Lewis. And he brings a bottom lip smile of respect from Dimitri Bergh. That was never really in doubt.
So a 3-leg lead, a second breaker throw for the 2-time world champion Adrian Lewis. It's been a while, as we were talking about at the start of this match, since he's been in this position, but he looks like a man that is determined to take the opportunity with both hands. And for Dimitri Bergh, look, it could still be the early stages of this final, or we could be almost halfway there. But Bergh looks like he's having his worst performance of the day in the final.
180.
Is Adrian Lewis about to have his best? He had more 180s coming into this final for the day than Bergh. And that's saying something, considering Bergh was averaging a good 7 more than him coming into this. Adrian had 18 to Dimitri's 17.
Dimitri averaged 104 in his first match. His first 2 matches, in fact,
58.
in 6-2 wins against Koltsov and Gilding. He then was taken to a last leg decider by Vincent van der Voort before 3 more averages of over 104 in wins against Chris Dobie, Rob Cross and Kim Huybrechts, which was mentioned. The high, the 109.81 against Rob Cross.
121.
So far in this final, sub 90 from Dimitri Bergh. Can Lewis go ton plus here?
3 greens.
Game shot.
Oh, it's not 9 points for 3 greens, but he does get 123 of them for 4-0. That is brilliant. 1-2-1, followed by a 1-2-3.
Bergh still left legless in this match as Lewis takes out 1-2-3 for 4.
You and I both know that this is a great performance. But do you remember a certain friend of Bergh earlier this year who had a great start against a good player called Gerwin Price? And things turned around, didn't they? Well, if Bergh has been shocked into action right here, he's going to have to do exactly what Price did to Damon Heta earlier this season.
Well, Lewis has come absolutely flying out of the blocks, averaging 104 himself. That's the standard that Dimitri's been at today, and he's not letting up.
There are so many positives about this performance. The scoring is there. The doubles are brilliant. He's averaging sensationally. But maybe the most impressive part about this is that Adrian Lewis looks energetic. He doesn't look tired. He's not perspiring a lot, which is something that I think he might have addressed over the last year. He has lost a bit of weight, and he's admitted that he still needs to lose a bit more. But I don't remember Adrian looking this comfortable at the end of a darts day for a while. And that is very, very exciting.
On a missed chance for Bergh to get some kind of grip in this game. It's a wild one from Adrian Lewis. A wild 2.
You never expect to do that with 81 left, even under this kind of pressure in a final.
64.
Interesting.
It must have been a miscount.
He was very flummoxed by hitting 2 small singles. And he doesn't leave 17 every day. Does it matter? It doesn't, because double 8 comes to the aid of Bergh. And I called his game with Chris Dobie a little bit earlier, which was quite the performance. And he had double 8 on a string.
140.
He seems to have put it behind him all right. A 140 to start leg 6.
Don't underestimate the ability to forget what has gone before. It's a great asset to have
180.
in most sports. But how big is that for Bergh? That maximum off the back of winning leg 5. The charge starts here, and it has
58.
to be maintained for quite some time to bring himself back in this final.
Yep, he's produced demonic darts over the course of the day, Dimitri Bergh, but it's taken a little while for him to wake up
134.
in this final. But here he is, launching an assault on the Lewis throw.
He's not going to leave a finish.
95.
Does get close. 187 for Bergh after 6. That's a good sign. Wow, look at this now. Look at this now. And he's left double 8. Could be a 10 darter. This is a message being sent to Adrian Lewis from Dimmy saying, I'm not out of this final yet.
60. Game
Oh,
shot.
brilliant from Bergh. It is a 10 dart leg in the final. Adrian Lewis watching on with interest as he sees Bergh suddenly raise his game, and the averages are more or less level now all of a sudden. A pair of them around 103.
10 darters will do that.
140.
They'll improve everyone's average.
What it does mean is that Lewis's game has slightly tailed off, and Bergh's, from where he was in the 80s, well, we've got lift off, haven't we?
Well, he can afford to lose one leg now and again from this position, but he's got to win 2 on the back of that. And if he does that twice, it's going to be 6-6.
98.
Well, Bergh has had the better of recent meetings against Adrian Lewis. He's won the last 3, including brilliant battle at the Ali Pali in the 2020 World Championship. 4 sets to 3. They also met on the World Match Play stage that year. Of course, we all know what happened.
Yeah, it wasn't a bad tournament for Dimitri.
Since then, they met at the autumn series, the back end of last year. Vandenberg won that again in a last leg decider. Lewis has just 2 wins from 7 meetings against this particular opponent.
But we are seeing Adrian Lewis as someone that isn't part of the new generation, maybe for the first time. He's part of a previous stock of players who is maintaining a career, whereas Vandenberg is on the upward trend. He's with the Luke Humphreys, the Bradley Brooks, the Luke Woodhouses, these kinds of players. Now Lewis might go 25 with a second dart here to square things up, but that hasn't worked out very well until the third dart.
Well, this is for a holder throw, so it might have to go for Vandenberg to carry on his claim in this match. Excellent second. So good on that double in the semi-final, but can't find it on this occasion, so a chance for Lewis to hit back and restore a 3-leg lead.
Oh, and double 10 comes to his aid. In the semi-final, Murph, I'm not sure if he saw any of it, but he was awful on it. He was dreadful on double 10. 3 shots, and he was nowhere near it on all 3 occasions. But that shot right there re-establishes that 3-leg cushion, and it could be
95.
Enormous for his chances of winning a first title in a while.
But he's been one of the players, Adrian Lewis, that hasn't been involved in that much over the last few months. Certainly got an interesting dynamic to it this final in terms of Vandenberg's been involved in everything, but it looks as if Adrian Lewis must have been keeping his arm in and putting in some work on the practice board.
It confirms something that I've said about him for the last 10 years. He's had seasons where he's done too much. Too many exhibitions, too many Pro Tour events. He didn't take any constructive breaks, and when he was playing too much, he would get irritated.
81.
He would have a little bit of a Barney with certain players. But when he's rested, and this takes me to my little saying, a rested Lewis is a better Lewis.
133.
And he's rested right now. If he stays like this the rest of the season, what could he do?
Just a little point on the maths there from Adrian Lewis. He could have and should have gone for the bullseye with the last dart.
140.
Would have been on a finish now, and Vandenberg is.
A little bit of tactical fragility, maybe. Now, we don't associate that with Adrian, but we are seeing a new school of counting coming in, where you don't waste a single dart. Well, Adrian has wasted 1 dart in this leg in trying to leave a finish. And he might need the 128. He might not get a chance. Double top. Oh, yes. This final keeps delivering. It's like Postman Pat.
A whopper of a checkout from Dimitri Vandenberg. Not sure he'll remember Postman Pat, Paul.
I can't think of any more famous postal workers.
The last one that Lewis beat in a final was a
140.
former postie, wasn't he, Rema van Barneveld?
The only other one I can think of is when Ace Ventura was delivering that broken box in the first Ace Ventura movie.
134.
Which, of course, is one of the favourite movies of Rema van Barneveld.
I'm not sure Dimitri Vandenberg will remember that either.
Too young for Ace Ventura. Now I feel old.
It was an ace finish
64.
from DVDB, but it does go back to that point. Cannot waste a dart. Lewis, look. It's a big shot to take out. Had he left
134.
a big finish in which you needed 2 trebles and the bull, but you can't take it out if you haven't left it, can you?
Got to have the chance first. You'll hear me talking about got to have the opportunity so many times. You know how many times I hate it when people go for the treble
100.
on, say, an 84 with 64 left and 2. Go for the big single. Maintain the opportunity of getting a shot for the leg. A shot is better than no shot.
40.
Just starting to fall apart a little bit for Adrian Lewis. I think the resilience of Vandenberg has got a part to play in that.
43.
The fact that he's remained unflustered despite trailing this final at 1.4-0.
I love that word resilience, because first, to have resilience, you have to have patience. Patience builds resilience. And Bergh has got patience in spades. He's not going to be rushed, but he might take another biggie. Oh, he nearly did as well. Now, if Lewis takes this, it's finally a chance at a 1-2-8.
Yeah, didn't get a go in the previous leg. Well, you can see that he thinks that was unlucky. Seemed to flick off the flight and divert the darts from its destination.
That was like a basketball shot going off the ring on the outside of the hoop.
Bergh looking for the slam dunk.
Game shot.
And in it goes. And Adrian Lewis, who won the first 4 legs of this match, has now lost 4 of the next 5.
Do you know what, Murph? In the generation of dart players where I was winning titles and jousting with the likes of, you know, Kev Painter and Wes Newton and Adrian Lewis and Gary Anderson, of course, in semis and finals, most of the players used to walk past you really quickly. I'm starting to see a trend of players walking slowly because
41.
they don't want to rush. They just want to amble past and just get on with it, nice and, well, relaxed. Are we seeing a bit of a change
60.
in that regard? Nobody does the Michael Barnard, where they race to the board and race to the back of the cubicle.
It's about keeping your rhythm, isn't it? About keeping your head, keeping your concentration. And you can see Bergh there. Not only did he go back, and so he even paused before approaching the hockey.
You should never be rushed into taking your turn. There is a line to be drawn with that, of course.
84.
There is taking a little bit of the mickey, but what Bergh is doing right now is he's playing at his pace. He's not being drawn into a quicker match, which is very simple when you play someone like Adrian Lewis. I remember early in my career playing Jelle Klaassen and feeling like I was speeding up because of my opponent, and that was something I had to learn to change.
Yeah, Lewis certainly a slower player than he was when he won those back-to-back world titles 10 years ago now.
57.
Really? Yeah, it is 10 years ago.
Around that time and the couple of years that followed, everybody seemed to think it was going to be Adrian Lewis and Michael van Gerwen that would pull away from the rest of the world of darts and have this big battle between 2 titans of the sport. Well, it kind of happened for van Gerwen, but Lewis didn't stay with him, did he?
You know, if Adrian Lewis is looking for someone to be motivated by, Mark Williams, the snooker player. Don't be afraid to find those little things to change and to get better. And world titles might come again.
But everybody knows
96.
he's got the talent and the ability. You can't win a couple of world titles through luck.
As soon as you said everybody knows there, I started humming that song. Everybody knows that the dice are loaded.
138.
Well, that's a loaded visit right there from Adrian Lewis. This could be huge, this exchange. It could be a level game or a 2-leg gap once again.
Lewis was just scratching his head. He thinks he might be getting away from him here.
Game shot.
And it might be, because Bergh has broken the throw to go level, and that puts him in pole position in this final.
How good has he been on double 8? I'm not just talking about the rest of the day and how he's been in his career with it, but in this final, perfect, pretty much.
And for the first time, he turned around and faced Adrian Lewis, didn't he then? He knew that was a big shot. A well-timed finish and perhaps a well-timed celebration.
When you're in this kind of zone, your opponent doesn't exist. You are there playing a board and trying to beat the score on the tablet. Adrian's not there because Dimitri is so focused. But don't be shocked if that turnaround was just the tiniest little message, as if to say, I'm back in the match now.
Lewis knows it, but that's a great dart for him to follow.
140.
Second dart just kicked down a little bit, made it slightly more difficult.
Yeah, there was no room in between those two unless he went to the slight right of the flight. He'll have to go 19s when he returns.
100.
Let's see if he can get the approach shot tactically right this time with the execution. Has to go north. I think that's the wrong play. As soon as you get the single 19 underneath, I think you go up north for 620s to leave 164.
Getting to the business end of the match, Paul. Both players will be looking at it probably in different ways, but for Adrian Lewis in particular, does he take encouragement from today, whatever happens in this final?
I think he will.
100.
But he doesn't want that to have a tinge of sadness attached to it. He wants this to be a real catalyst, a proper catalyst, a 10 grand catalyst.
Well, this could be the catalyst to put his foot down and pull away
Game shot.
from Adrian Lewis, and that's exactly what he's doing here. Lewis, remember, led this match 4-0, and I think that's part of the disappointment that he might feel, because if Bergh had just played at the same standard as he has all day and blown Lewis away, averaging 109, then maybe he could have just said, well, it's a good run, beaten by a better player. But Lewis had his chances here.
And what did we say at 4-0? From the experience
140.
of that final between Price and Heta, we weren't getting carried away, because we know that these matches, which are longer in these finals now, they have
90.
different complexities. You may think, watching this on PDC TV, that there's no difference between best of 11 and best of 15, but the complexities are so different.
93.
6 out of 7 legs for Bergh, who has moved his average north of 100.
140.
Had some huge checkouts in the match. That 120, the second ton plus finish for Bergh. He had 160 earlier on. Lewis has had 121 and 123. Really has been a final that's been full of fantastic stuff.
58.
It's like they're playing 120 plus bingo. Who's going to get a 122 or a 124 or even a 125? We like a 125.
140.
Let's not forget today we have seen 3 bullseyes on the stream from Jose de Sousa to leave himself on 15.
The funny thing is Adrian Lewis would take 3 double 1 finishes from here, wouldn't he?
Oh yeah, he'd take anything. Just to get 8 legs. But he needs to get to 6 first. And he's not going to get to 6 at this visit. Oh, that's a real bad visit. Bergh for a 2-leg cushion for the first time, and to be within 1.
It's not the first time it's happened either for Adrian Lewis. He's only missed 2 darts at double in this final, but there have been a couple of times when he should have had darts at double and not. And Bergh isn't making those mistakes, and it's now 7 out of 8 legs, and he is 1 away from the win.
This has been a bit of a blitz. This is the equivalent of the Pittsburgh Steelers sending everybody to the offensive line of the opposing team, and they are smashing their way through.
140.
Well, I'll take your word for that, Paul. Don't see much smashing their way through at Hillsborough where I go to watch Sheffield Wednesday, except for the opponents.
I don't even know who plays for Sheffield Wednesday anymore, so I couldn't use that analogy. I'm sorry.
Adrian Lewis used to be a handy footballer back in the day, didn't he?
Oh yeah, he was a great header of the football as well. Really good footballer.
He might have to wait for the day that he carries on picking up titles in the world of darts. It looked like it was going Lewis's way when he led this match 4-0 after those back-to-back 120-something checkouts. But Dimitri Bergh
97.
has just produced a purple patch of the highest order, and Lewis is looking lost a little bit in this final now.
Yeah, Lewis needs a hat-trick from here.
Nicely done.
99.
1 more maximum. That's exactly what Bergh is thinking right here. One more maximum, and I'm almost there.
79.
What was you saying? One more. Maximum, and there it is. To tee up tops for the match.
I called a couple of things today. That 9-darter for Aspinall where he was going to lose as well.
100.
But this is to win a second place championship title.
Is there a let-off for Lewis here? No, it is victory for Bergh, who reels off 8 of the last 9 legs in that final to defeat Adrian Lewis, who was cruising at 4-0 up. But the brilliant Belgian bounced back